Are you serious? Stop. Don't do that. What are you, nuts?
We're a matcha made in heaven.
Oh, gosh. Welcome back to Birds Nesting Settling In, where we talk all things relocation, luxury living, and helping pro athletes feel at home fast. With the NFL draft right around the corner, it feels only right to bring on someone very special for today's episode. Today's guest is no stranger to Philly or to making history. He spent 11 seasons in the NFL, protected some of the league's biggest names, and became the first offensive lineman since 1937 to catch a touchdown. Correction, he is the first lineman to score a touchdown since 1934. Actually, scratch that. He scored 2. A fan favorite, a locker room legend, and somehow now a guy who went from the trenches of the NFL to raising Wagyu cattle and tasting wine on camera. He's not the founder of Birds Nesting, but he is the voice of reason behind the chaos. My partner in life, my in-house offensive coordinator, and your unofficial co-host, please welcome Todd Herremans.
Wow. That was quite the intro. I appreciate that. I don't know if I've ever had a nice intro as nice as that.
Yeah?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I would expect it from you.
Okay, yeah, I kind of have to.
But I do need to make a correction. So I was the first offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles to score a touchdown since 1937.
That's
true. There have been on other teams. Plenty of other linemen.
To me, you're the only one in the world.
Yeah, thank you, honey.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here because this marks 20 years since you were drafted to the NFL.
Yeah. That's a long time ago, it seems.
Yeah.
Almost half my life.
Yeah. More than half of mine.
But it's gone fast. It's gone very fast. That means it was a lot of fun.
A kid out of Saginaw Valley State who got the call that changed his life, and he had no idea where he was about to live.
That's true. I didn't have any idea that I was even going to be in Philadelphia. To be honest, I didn't hear from the Eagles until draft day, really.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't even, there was so many teams that came to see me at my school for my pro day that and because I didn't go to the combine, which is where everybody goes to get their testing done and stuff in front of it. It's like a tryout, basically, in front of all the coaches. I didn't get invited to that because I was from small school. So,
really?
Yeah. But what I did do was at my pro day, I took this test called the Wonderlic test, which is like this IQ test, right? Which I thought was stupid. It seemed like the most common sense answers in the world.
Does everybody have to take it?
Yeah. You get points for writing your name. So...
That's funny.
Yeah, but I've always considered myself not like a brainiac, but pretty logical, and a lot of the questions seemed to be logical questions. So I scored really well on it, and because of that, all of a sudden, my draft stock skyrocketed. They were like, "Oh, who's this big lineman who's smart too?"
So do people fail it and then
Well, not fail. It's not a pass or a fail thing. It's I think it's 53 questions or something like that.
Math? Is it logic? Is it reading comprehension? All of the above?
And to be honest, I don't even remember. I think it was just a little bit of everything. It's kind of got some personality questions in there. It's got reasoning, logic.
Why do you think that they do that?
Well, so that's not the only test they give out. When you go visit with the New York Giants, they give you this 600-page, it's like a personality test.
Really? But you never did that.
No, I had to take it too.
You visited the Giants?
Well, I had either they came, I didn't visit there, but they came to my pro day and gave me the test or something.
Oh my God.
It was wild. It was a huge test. But I think they're just trying to figure out, make sure you're not a serial killer or anything.
That's crazy.
But anyway, so I did really well on that test, right?
Make sure you're not serial. What?
Think about it. They're just going to hire you for football, but they also have to they're investing a lot of money, a lot of time into you, right? And so they can't make a bad investment. They try to, dig up any kind of dirt they can on you. This is like, it's not an interview. It's like they're doing like a private investigation into your life before they pick you up.
Oh, so maybe they're like psychological tests.
Yeah. They want to know how you think. How you think under pressure, how you think about logical things. But yeah, so because I scored well on that and I was an offensive lineman, that my draft stock rose. And then some teams, I got a little buzz going on, and these guys were all like, who is this kid?
Really?
And then all of a sudden I was traveling around to maybe, I don't know, like 14 different cities 2 weeks before the draft, doing these pre-draft visits, what they called. Usually they're guys that either caught on late, but most of the time they're guys that they think they might pick, that they want to get a good look at in person, bring them in, meet all the coaches, stuff like that. So I didn't do any of the physicals or anything at the combine, so I was flying around all these cities getting poked and prodded, doing physicals at each one, because they didn't even know if I was healthy, who I was. Some of them wanted me to do like workout drills and stuff, and like, it's hard to tell them no, you know?
Why would you tell them no? They're trying to.
Well, my agent was like,
perform.
You shouldn't have to do any drills when you go, because they just want like to talk to you. But yeah, so anyway, once I went around and I talked to all these teams and stuff, I guess it went well, because then the buzz kept rising about me. So that's kind of how it works before the draft.
But there has to be pre-existing buzz while you're in school, right?
Yeah, so I had multiple teams, probably because the class before me had a couple of good receivers on my team in college, Ruvel Martin and Glenn Martinez. And they both got a lot of attention from the NFL. They both got picked up as free agents and spent some time in the NFL. Pretty good careers. And when the scouts were coming out to check them out, they were like, who's this big kid, you know? And they were like, oh, he's just a sophomore or something like that, you know? And then they were like, well, does he plan on coming out early? And I didn't know that they asked him this, asked my coach this. And then he told me later that they had asked that, and he just answered for me. He was like, absolutely not. Of course, it was probably a good decision. I wouldn't have panned out if I left at that point.
Yeah,
I needed
develop.
Yeah, I needed every bit of development in college that I could get. And I was only in college for 4 years because I didn't redshirt.
Yeah.
So I needed all those 4 years. I got some attention from the scouts. And then they're like, well, we'll definitely be back for them next year. And then more scouts came the next year, you know. I think because I played well too. But like, that's kind of the discovery process, you know. The guys in front of you bring a little bit of attention, and then you bring more attention for yourself. And then, you know, guys after you get attention because of the legacy that you've created at school.
So you went to school at Saginaw Valley State.
Right.
A D2 school, right?
Everyone's always so surprised when they say, wow, you made it all the way out of Division II? And I was just like, and they will find you. The NFL will find you. They leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, if you're good, you'll be found.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get completely overlooked. But it's tough. There's a lot of people, like a lot of players in the country each year, you know? Yeah.
The draft class is like huge, and that's after eyes, right? Like you have to whittle down.
Yeah.
So you can get attention and eyes on you, but that doesn't mean you're going to the draft or you're going to be signed.
So I wasn't even sure I was going to get drafted.
So let's take it way back, way back to 2005.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. That's crazy. No fancy green room. No pre-draft media tour.
No invite to New York City, no.
Yeah, so what did draft day look like for you?
So draft day was exciting. Obviously my parents were excited that it was a possibility. You know, my dad, a lifelong coach, and my mom traveling around to every game that I ever played in. Draft day was a really cool experience. So they wanted to host it at home at the farm, and a bunch of my buddies from college and high school made the trip to my parents' farm, and we had a big party. Included kegs and a lot of food, and just a good rowdy time. And we watched the whole first day of the draft expecting to get drafted, and it never happened. Because I kind of, like, I didn't know whether I was going to get drafted or not, because everyone always tells you, like, it's a crapshoot. But then, like, while I was going around, traveling around to these teams, I'm literally sitting in these coaches' offices, and they're like, yeah, well, I remember Russ Grimm told me, I'd bet my bass boat that if you're there in the second round with our pick, we'll get you, or something like that. Maybe the second or third round. But then they ended up taking Trey Essex, who was a different guard or lineman, you know. So it's like you hear these little tidbits.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So out of all the places that I thought I had a chance to go,
it was Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh and Dallas were the two places that I thought I had a really good chance of getting picked up at.
Whoa.
Just because those were the coaches that seemed to show the most interest in me. I actually sat down with those offensive line coaches and like went over scheme and just talked about like what my role would be, stuff like that.
That's so weird. I can't picture you in like...
Oh, a star?
Oh my gosh, a star or black and yellow. That's crazy.
I can't now either, but I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Whoever called me that next day. Anyway, my expectations were just like... Yeah, there was a couple teams that told me that maybe I'll go high, but at the same time, I was kind of like a mid-rounder, like a third, fourth, and back then it was like 1, 2, 3 on the first day, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the second day, and then free agency after that. So it wasn't like this whole big week-long thing.
Extravaganza.
Yeah. But I remember like sitting there, we watched every pick with bated breath, you know, drinking. Didn't call my name, drinking more. Didn't call my name, drinking more, you know? And then like, you know, those picks would come up, like Pittsburgh would be on the clock, like in the second or third round. I'd be like, hey man, maybe this is it. Sitting there like waiting for the phone to ring and stuff, and it just never did. Same thing with Dallas and stuff. And then finally the draft was over. We're all kind of sitting around just like, well, there's always tomorrow.
Oh my God.
Let's go to the pub. So we all, like, all my buddies from college and my brother and all of our friends from back home just went down to the good old Ravenna pub, tied one on, and had a pretty late night.
Is that just like the craziest, like, feeling, like, of helplessness and anticipation and just like, is that like one of the most nervous times you've ever been in your life?
I don't really remember.
Because you're not really like a nervous guy.
Yeah, so I was, like, that's what I was gonna say. I don't really remember being nervous. I mean, I think that those couple of meetings I had with those couple of coaches raised my expectations a little bit. Like I was going into it with low expectations, you know, because high expectations usually equal a little bit of disappointment, you know, some sort of disappointment. So I was just kind of guarding myself, like I'm a Division II kid, you know, a lot of people are telling me these things, but they could just be blowing smoke, you know. It's like, it's my agent telling me this, you know, and there's a couple coaches that I went to visit, like they could lie to me all they want, who cares, they might never see me again, you know. So I was like trying to guard that, you know, expectation a little bit. But it's almost impossible to like not have some expectation.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you were just like...
So yeah, I was a little depressed after the first day went by, but then, you know, I had an awesome group of people around me, you know, just surrounded by friends and family, and nobody else was like, they were like, bro, who cares? They're like, as long as you get in the door, you get in the door, you know? Yeah, we went out and we had a late night, and we all came back, and there was like tents and campers and like everything set up in my parents' farm for everybody to sleep, because there's no hotels around there. And these guys all traveled from the other side of the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like a big campground.
Festival.
Yeah, it was like a
draft festival
in my farm town of Ravenna, you know, in my parents' house. And so the next day, the draft, like, we all kind of like, you know, we're all groggy getting up, and then the draft had started. And so we were all just like laying around like corpses. And I think there's a picture of it where we're all just kind of like laying scattered all over the living room floor, blankets all over the place.
It's like an old school sleepover.
Yeah, and then the TVs, the draft is just playing on the TV. And then there was a couple times that the phone rang. You know, and it wasn't a team. And so like they'd be like, don't answer that, Todd, go get the phone. And so like I would go get the phone, I'd be like, Nah. False alarm.
It's just
False alarm.
Ruth.
Yeah. Hey, did Todd get drafted yet? No. We thought you were it, but nope.
No. That's so funny. Hey, let's back up. What did 2005 Todd Herremans look like? Because the general consensus now of you 20 years later is, oh, you look so different. You even look different from your playing days and post-playing days. So make us a picture, illustrate us a picture of...
I don't know. I wore like a lot of cut-off t-shirts. At this point, I had been growing my hair out for maybe a year or two. With one of my buddies on the team. His name was Dan Fedorosi.
Dan grew his hair out too?
We played against each other in high school. Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
So we grew our hair out together, and then we decided to dye it black together.
That's crazy.
And then after we dyed it black, it grew out more. And then you know how you got the roots? So I was like, man, I gotta go dye my roots. I don't know why I wanted black hair, but I thought...
You're emo.
I guess I was emo. College emo Todd. So then,
how
I would go get more box dye, and then I would go and do it at home.
So bad for you.
And so I did this maybe like 3 times. And
really?
But they weren't the same shades of black. So like, I had like different shades of black dye in my hair.
Oh gosh.
But you know, I wasn't.
Oh wow. That's something.
Yeah.
But
so
then how would you
style?
What did you use to style it, Todd? Tell the people.
Oh, well, I didn't necessarily like how my hair looked when it was like dry, because it would like frizz up and go crazy. So
it's not frizzy.
So I used to like throw a little baby oil in my hand and just like, you know, just work it through there.
With your 3-tone black hair.
Boom. Greasy 3-tone black hair.
I got a picture. I got evidence. I got evidence of all
this. And then I'd throw it up in a little pony man bun. Or a lot of times I'd do the top knot with the death curtain in the back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right. 6'7". How much did you weigh?
I was a healthy 320 probably.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I think so. 320. I think, yeah, because I think I played my senior year at like 305 or 305 or something like that.
Were you just like pancaking kids?
And then I just started.
Babies.
No.
No?
No. So that was like one of the knocks against me, I feel. It's like, because I played at a Division II school, and they said that the competition I played against, I should have dominated more. But I wasn't like
you gentle giant.
I wasn't like the embarrass a guy kind of guy. I was just like to do my job, you know, and I did my job whether it was a little like 185 pound 6 foot DN, or I did my job whether it was like a 6'5", 275 pound DN.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't like a drive him into the ground type of player. You know, which, you know, that was a knock on me. So I could have been. I didn't have that extra oomph, I guess. Mean streak.
Mean streak, for sure. Speaking of mean streaks, I know crazy stories about teammates and opponents and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Just like dirty playing.
Yeah, some people just learned a way to play. So a little story about, real quick, I'll take this back. So here's kind of why I think that I had an incident when I was younger playing football, right?
Oh.
So when I was in maybe 8th grade, we played this game on the high school field, and the field was just completely mud.
You didn't start playing until
8th grade. And so this game it was like right after our high school played this game called the Mud Bowl, and we were playing on the muddy field or whatever. And I got down on my stance, and I thought it'd be a good idea to grab 2 handfuls of mud and like throw it up at the kid's face, right? And my dad was not a coach, but I don't know if he caught wind of it happening or something, but he just kind of like sat me down and I think he saw it happen maybe, or he sat me down, and after the game he was like, hey, that's not how you play football. You know, that has nothing to do with the game. You know, you're being dirty and cheap, and you know, that's just not the right way to play it. And then that just like kind of stuck with me. And think that's probably why I wasn't like a dirty, mean guy. Maybe.
I think that goes with your personality and your character too.
Yeah, but anyway, that was a knock on me. I wasn't finishing people like I should have for a Division II guy. So
it's day 2. You're all just sprawled.
Day 2, all sprawled all over the floor. And then the phone rang, and I went and answered it.
And it wasn't Sue down the street.
It was not Sue. It was not anybody that I was expecting it to be. It was Tom Heckert, who was the GM for the Eagles at the time. And I remember him saying, "Hey Todd, how you doing? You know, Tom Heckert here." And like, because I had not talked with anybody from the Eagles.
So did you even know who Tom Heckert was?
No. And he told me, I'm with Tom Heckert with the Eagles or whatever. He says, "I think we're going to trade up for you right here and pick you. Hold on, hold tight," or something he said. And so I was like on the phone, I was like, and everybody's like in the other room, like peering around the door, like watching me on the phone, and I was like, because we had our corded phone on the wall.
Yeah, this is 20 years ago.
and so he was like, all right, yep, it just went through. Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm gonna put you on the phone with Juan Castillo. And I was like, all right, cool. And I'm like thinking to myself, who's Juan Castillo? Because the Eagles weren't even on my like radar. I didn't look up any of the staff members. I never met anybody. I think I saw maybe a scout at my pro day, but they didn't spend any time with me or anything. So it was just a whole like whirlwind thing. Juan hops on the phone.
I bet your head
and he's
was
like
spinning.
this, starts like automatically like click on me. "Hey Todd, I'm a D2 guy too. I went to Texas A&M Kingsville. I coached there. I coached guys that made it in the league, and they were Division II guys, and they're Pro Bowlers." Talking about Jermaine Mayberry, who was a great Philadelphia Eagle. And he's just sitting there, and he's like, "We're going to do this." He's like, "I'm going to get you right." He's like, "You're going to be a good ball player." And I'm just like, all right. And then he starts going into, all right, so what we like to do here is a lot of times we'll do like a slide protection where we send the back one way and then we'll slide the line the other way. And I'm like, okay, yeah. He goes, "We call that 2-3 jet." And I'm sitting there like, okay. And he's like, "Okay," and then
Are you going to be quizzed on this?
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking like, do I need to write this down?
Should I be taking notes?
Do I need to write this down? And then everybody else is like over there, like popping bottles, champagne and stuff. And I'm sitting there like, all right, cool. And then he's like, "And then we have a man protection talk called 22-23. And then what that is the back is going to go to one side and then the other side is going to dual read." And I'm sitting there like, okay. And then he starts going into the run game. And I'm just like, man, that's when I started getting nervous because it seemed like Juan was like a little bit of an intense football guy. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be cut out for this, And so he kind of wrapped it up quicker than that because I think he was like, "Hey, I think you got some family you want to go to. A Big Red wants to say hi to you real quick." And so then Andy got on the phone and, "You ready to come and work? We're excited to have you. We think you're going to be a good ball player," type thing. And he's like, "All right, well, go enjoy your time and we'll see you at camp." And then I got off the phone and it was big cheers and we all toasted champagne and then the hangover was gone and we all partied again. But it was a very special time. It was a cool time for not just for me, but I think it was cool, obviously for my parents and my brother and all my family and friends from back home to experience, because it's not every day something like that happens in Ravenna,
Are you kidding?
But not just that, like having my college teammates there with me was so cool because, they all had a hand in it, all of my linemen that played with me. And the funny thing is I tell this to people all the time. It's like, it's crazy as everyone's like, "Wow, you played D2 and you made it in the NFL." And I'm like, the crazy thing is I feel like there were 3 or 4 guys on our line that could have played in the NFL. And they just didn't get the opportunity, Maybe they weren't as big as me. They didn't score as well in the Wonderlic as me, but they were talented and they were good ball players. So I always have kind of held that, like I think that our offensive line at Saginaw when I was playing there was very comparable to like a Division I offensive line because we had some really talented big guys. it was really cool to experience that with everybody, you know. But then it became chaos, and man, I remember talking to on the phone. They were kind of prepping me for my arrival and stuff, and they were like, all right, well, we're booking you a flight, you're gonna have to fly in, you know, at such and such date. And they're like, you know, we're going to do all of our team headshots and stuff when you get in, and, you know, you'll go through all the onboarding or, you know, whatever. And then they said, and so, you know, if you want to get a haircut or anything, you know, make sure you get that done before you get here. And so then I was like, it was like one of the only things I heard, and I was like, dang.
I need a haircut.
Does that mean I have to cut my hair? I was like, were they telling me to cut my hair right there? And then my dad was like, you should probably just cut your hair. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So then I just went and cut my hair, and I showed up to camp.
That's why your hair is short.
So I showed up to
and
camp
the airport
with short
picture
hair.
with your dad.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's so
And then the funny thing is I showed up, and I'm all like this chubby, clean-cut kid now, you know? And like one of the tight ends that got drafted was like a dude it was a white dude with dreadlocks, Steven Spock, cool dude. And then there was just a bunch of other people with like long hair.
And you're like,
and I was like, God damn, it took me so long. It took me so long to grow that out.
Aww.
But
no, it was for the better.
Yeah, it was probably better to lose all the
best.
Oil and all the coloring that I had put on.
Yeah,
there,
you can't take that out. You just have to chop it off. Oh, gosh.
Are you grossed out?
No.
It looked good though.
That looked good. Then the rest is history.
I mean, yeah, then the rest is history. I got on, my parents took me to the airport.
No welcome
Grand
packet,
Rapids.
no relocation service,
No.
just vibes.
Just heading to Philly on a bag with a bag full of vibes. I mean, the good thing is that, and this is not to take away from anything that you have going on for you, but like the team does put you up in a hotel for a little bit, you know, until you figure out if you're going to make the team or not.
I mean, it's the least they could do, right?
But no, I mean, hotel living's still not like the best type of living, you know? So like when I got here, I was in a hotel. I was roommates with one of my buddies, and we became buddies. But he was another Division II player that got drafted maybe in the 7th round. Funny thing is, he went to Grand Valley State University.
Oh, really?
My rival, yeah. And we played against each other.
Was he from Michigan?
Yeah, he's from Grand Rapids. And Keontae Marshall.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Were you
Big
kind
keys.
of like, friend?
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah. He put me on to Life Jennings, some John Legend. Oh, yeah. He put me on to a bunch of like
John
R&B and
Legend
stuff.
when we first started dating.
Yeah.
You were heavy on the...
So, but yeah, we stayed there, and then it just became like a living out of a hotel thing. So we first went out there for post-draft rookie mini camp, right? And then you're there for like maybe 3 or 4 days, and then you're out of there. And then I think they start like off-season OTAs or something like that. It's different now than it was back then. But then you go back and you do like these organized team activities. And then at the end of those, then you would do like a team mini camp. And then you'd break until training camp. So you get a little bit of like time, you know, in the summer. Basically, you get a month or so to go see your family, friends, whatever, and then report back. But like during that time that you're in the city, you kind of have to squeeze some time in to like do some research of where you might want to live. Where does everybody else live around here? Like, you know, you're sitting there, you're a rookie, you're trying to like talk to the vets and be like, hey, where's everybody living around here?
Hey, where do you live?
Back then it was like, everyone was just like, Jersey, Morristown. You know, that's just where everybody lived back then. But there's definitely been a shift to the city while I was on the team, to the PA side. But yeah, I mean, that time is, you're trying to learn a playbook and you're trying to prove yourself and make a roster. And also, I mean, I was trying to like make some friends too. You know, like there's some guys that come in that don't give a shit about if anybody's gonna be their friend or not. They're there to play football. Jason Kelsey was that guy. He didn't care. He was there for a job. And of course, eventually once he got the job, he like, you know, softened up and stuff. But yeah, when I got there, you know, I was trying to be cool with the vets and all right, yeah, just trying to like bust my ass and, you know, show them that I belong there. Cause coming from a Division II school, I felt like, even though I was drafted, especially since I was drafted, I felt like I had to prove why I was there, why they drafted me. You know what I mean? So it was just a lot of hard work.
It sounds cheesy, but a lot goes into being on a team, right? And it's like how you act on and off the field, how you interact with your teammates, and in the locker room and stuff like that. So, you know.
Well, the whole time that you're there for, you know, 2-3 weeks, it's kind of like they get to see you in the habitat. I think what I did back then is I went and I'm gonna ask Karen and or Harold gave me some apartment brochures or something like that.
Harold Carmichael?
Yeah.
Oh, apartment brochures.
Yeah. And so like.
So 20 years ago.
Yeah, so I had like some apartment brochures, and I know there was one in Cherry Hill. There was one in Deptford. And then
you called your mom?
And then there was Swedesboro was where I ended up landing. But yeah, like when I went home, I just kind of gave my mom the brochures, and I was like, here, I don't know where to live. And I guess she figured it out, picked it all up for me.
Took the bull by the horns, and she said,
good old Swedesboro. Ended up being
a good transition for you.
Transition.
You came from a rural farm town.
Country. You know, Swedesboro was slower
definitely quiet
than Philadelphia for sure. And it wasn't too bad driving into work.
No.
I actually kind of enjoyed like a, 25, 30 minute ride home. Let me like digest what happened in the day and stuff like that. Of course, bit me in the ass a couple times being late to work, But
you late?
Well, like I said, I like to have a little fun too, from time to time. So, my mom did all that, and
I need to interview your mom.
You should.
What was it like to relocate your son?
Yeah.
I work with parents too,
Yeah, no, I know you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it would have been a huge help to have something like that because there was a lot of questions coming from farm town, moving to...
You'd never been to Philadelphia. Had you ever been to the East Coast?
No.
Well, you've been to Florida. You've been to Florida, but that's hard. Not that you haven't been to the Northeast.
No.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. So, once we found somewhere to live, we went home and packed up all of our stuff, and my dad and I drove everything out in a Penske, and we towed my minivan behind it. My dad and I did the relocate. My mom found the spot, and then I think she came through and did a lot of decorating too after we actually picked the spot. She could have had you do all that.
Well, no, not in 2005. I was,
Well, not in 2005. So the draft was great. And then moving into Philadelphia was an experience. And it would have been way better with birds nesting.
Of course, everything's better with birds nesting.
Absolutely.
So fast forward to 2014. You just completed 10 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. And for your 11th and final season, you were traded to the Indianapolis Colts.
Not traded.
Well.
The birds cut me.
Actually, that year they cut a lot of people.
Hello, Chip Kelly.
Shout out Chip. 11th and final season, for the Colts. And during that time, we were newly married. I became pregnant while we were out there.
How did that happen?
I don't know. Trying to figure out what we're going to move there, where we're going to move, managing all of that while you had to go before me because we can go back to that, and managing a new city and not having a local support system to try and navigate all of those things and questions and nuances of a different area of the country, it's a lot. And so that's where bird's nesting comes from. But the speed of it all, we had just gotten married abroad, and when we flew home, the next day you got on a plane to Indianapolis. And you were there, and while you were there, I had to figure out, okay, what am I taking? Where are we going? Thank God my parents helped me because I didn't know. Usually I lean on you for a lot of stuff, and you weren't there, so I had to figure it out. But then you came back days later. Were you there for like a week or something?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and then we drove out together. But we had to figure it out, right?
I knew packing was a challenge for you because I came home and I saw that, and you were like, I don't even know what to take. I'm just gonna take everything. And I was like,
I know.
Okay.
Too much. I just didn't know.
And but like, when you go to this was the first time I was actually relocating with someone else.
Baggage.
Yeah. So pretty baggage. Designer baggage.
Oh, that's nice. I was your but at least we were married. You had a choice.
Yeah. But it's different, but I didn't notice it being different because
I let you stay focused.
That's the thing, is like when you're going to a new team, like I was in Philly for 10 years and now I had to go learn like new system, new verbiage with the offense, meet all these new coaches, and then like make new friends. I knew it was like it was tough. But you're also spending so much time at the facility, and then I come home and it's like dinner, bedtime. You know what I mean? And so like, I know you're not like wanting to take that like hour or so that you have with me to complain about like how you can't find anything, like the doctors that you need or
well, at that point I wasn't
the gym
pregnant
or
yet,
anything like that. Yeah, but any of that stuff, a social group, anything.
I did have a very dear friend there, thank God. She was there the year before. They came from the Eagles, went there the year before, so that was really nice to have a familiar face. Seriously, like by the grace of God, I had somebody there that I spent a good amount of time with, and so I was very thankful for that. But she had her own family,
right?
They had kids and things, and we lived in like towns away from them. Because we found like a random real estate agent.
Well, first of all, we also gave in. We wanted a big house because we were close to my family.
Our criteria. We didn't, but we also didn't know what we didn't know.
Right, exactly.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And that's why bird's nesting is so essential to Philadelphia, because
it's tough to move to an area where you have no idea.
People don't know what they don't know. So if I'm saying, hey, I want X, Y, and Z, but things are important to us to be near teammates because you need to have camaraderie and bonding and all the things, and I could become friends with the wives, and it just makes life easier and whatever. And we landed in a very lovely town. It was rated the country's #1 most safest town in the whole
It was nice. It was nice.
But it was very isolating. And that was like one of the biggest things for me, is that we were like 25 minutes away, closest to the teammate, to the closest teammate. It was very isolating. I feel like it could have been a completely different experience if we just had people that we were, we didn't have kids yet. And there were other people that we became friends with and stuff that we would have liked to have spent more time with. And we tried hosting the O-line one time. We did successfully, but then it just kind of like fizzled out after that because one guy had like 3 kids at that point, whatever. And it just, it was hard to get everybody together.
Yeah. Well, nobody wants to drive that far.
You don't want to drive that far. After work, on your day off. Yeah. And so, and all the things, all the lifestyle things of like, where am I going to go get my haircut? I actually never ended up finding somewhere out there to cut my hair. That's probably a good thing. But, I became pregnant with our first and just did some Google reviews for doctors and wasn't happy with that experience. Didn't end up delivering there, so it was fine.
Yeah.
But, it just wasn't a good fit. And so when we left, and we left in a hurry. And I just, hindsight, I feel like it would have been a totally different experience if we just knew what the heck was going on.
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't really clued in with everything that was going on because I was so into, and you weren't complaining to me, like I was saying, the last thing you want to do is stress out the player when he's home.
You have a job to do, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a tough thing for the significant other, girlfriend, wife, whatever, to handle, because they're like a person you want to confide in, but you also don't want to sit there and nag at them when they come home after getting yelled at the office or on the field, or maybe he just got his ass kicked on the field that day, and then he wants to come home and be like, I don't have any friends.
Where am I gonna go get my nails done?
Right. But I mean, it's not important to the player, but it's important to the other half. Yeah. And so it's great. And when we came back and you kind of were explaining all that stuff to me about how, it just seemed like there should be something. There should be something for each of these teams in each of these cities where, they have someone that can handle anything that you need. Not just real estate, but all the things that encompass moving to a new city. It's not just picking a house. You got to pick a community. You got to pick a school. You got to pick, if you got kids, you got to pick a church. If you're religious, how far do you want to drive to work? Do you like driving a long ways? Do you not like driving at all? There's a lot of things that go into that. And each player that comes in has a different fit. They're puzzle pieces, and some of them just don't fit in certain areas of the puzzle. You know what I mean? So, that kind of opened my eyes to your experience in Indianapolis, and then we were just kind of spitballing, and then you came up with the idea. Said, well, I'm going to do something about it. Mm-hmm. So nobody has to feel helpless anymore, or lost, or alone, because it can be pretty. It can make you feel pretty alone,
Absolutely. I felt very alone. Despite having, a couple friends, I still felt very alone in Indianapolis. And, I don't want to complain. And like I said, hindsight's everything.
Not our dog died.
Yeah, dog died while we were at an away game, and I was by myself and pregnant. That was pretty traumatizing.
Yeah.
And my parents stayed on the phone with me for 6 hours because there was no way that I was going to call you. This is when the Rams were in St. Louis. And you were away playing the Rams. I wasn't going to call you and be like, hey, your baby that you got when you first got to the league in 2000. Was that 2005 or 2006?
That's 2005 when I got that guy.
Zeus. He's a good dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, all of this to say, we're not complaining.
No.
But I wish that it was a more positive experience on the personal side.
We tell the kids every day, get better every day. You get better every day. You always gotta get better. You gotta try to get better. So like, if we saw an experience or we went through something and we saw some ways that you could possibly make it better, I'm not saying it was bad, but it could be better, right? And that's what you're doing.
Exactly, and that's
Listen, getting traded or signed by a professional team to a new city is not bad by any means. But there are some challenges and hurdles that nobody thinks about just because
you don't know.
Well, that and a lot of people just look at it like, they're professional athletes, they'll get taken care of. You know what I mean? Like, no, make a business, help take care of them. I think you've been doing a great job with it.
Thank you. I also I feel like Philadelphia, to know it is to love it, right? So if you know Philly, if you know which corners to go in or, what to explore and see, and it's got so much to offer. I'm still learning about it, I feel like, all of these years later, but I feel like, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think that one of the super positive things about birds nesting is that, you're not necessarily from Philly, but you are a tri-state. And so I think that what that does for all these people coming in is hearing your voice or helping you guide them to a place or your team or whatever is also going to give them an opportunity to fall in love with it. It's not hard. You just got to be yourself in Philly and they'll love you for it.
I'm going to ask you some questions. What were your first thoughts about Philly?
My first thoughts about Philly. The buildings are really tall, really old. Right? It's very historical, I used to eat Philly cheesesteaks at certain restaurants in the Midwest, they would say Philly cheesesteak. And then when I came to Philly and had Philly cheesesteaks, I was able to realize what a Philly cheesesteak really is. Generally, they don't have green peppers on them.
What's a Michigan Philly cheesesteak? Describe it.
So,
not on an Amoroso bun, that's for sure.
Nah, so... It's not that good. So the cheese isn't mixed in with it. It's more like the chopped steak.
Like a slice on top.
And then they put the green peppers and onions on it, but they're really big cut, green peppers, And this is just one particular restaurant I'm thinking of. I can't even remember what restaurant it was. And then they put the cheese on top of it, and then they run it through the salamander and melt the cheese that way. It's good, but it's not like cheesesteak.
That's funny. They're not asking you with or without. No.
Different type of sandwich.
Well, okay. What was your first place in Philly like?
So my first place in Philly. So I moved. Well, when I first got here, like we said, my mom picked out a place in the country for me, and I lived there for a year and a half in Jersey, and then I wanted to move over to PA, and so.
You wanted to be city boy?
Yeah, I just wanted to be. I don't know. We played for the Philadelphia Eagles. I felt weird living in Jersey. Kind of, even though everybody did, I was like, yeah, I want to be a Pennsylvania guy.
I know, and you were right next to your homies. Trent.
What? Yeah. Well,
Trent
he moved
right
out
there.
shortly after I did too.
Yeah, probably because you left.
But it was just, I don't know, I wanted to be a PA
going
guy.
west.
Found a nice house. Had the boys move in. Had a little posse. Buddies from college were living with me for a while. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because Entourage. Do kids even know what that is these days? The show Entourage?
I don't know, but they should binge it if they don't. Yeah, so Entourage was a very popular show at the time. It was a famous guy, a famous actor that had a bunch of his friends live with him. It sounded like fun.
Yeah, but you also had a not so great experience with the real estate agent, right? That sold you that house?
Well, I mean, not necessarily a bad experience with him, but I just bought it right before the market crashed.
Why do you say it like that?
I mean, I don't think he had any control over.
The market crash.
I don't think he had any control over the market crashing in 2008, but you know, it was.
Oh my gosh, you're dating yourself so hard.
You live and you learn.
That's crazy. Like, that's nuts. Anyway.
Yeah, you live and you learn. I mean, it was a fun house. It served its purpose.
Yeah, and then you
I met you in that house.
I wasn't in the house.
No, I didn't meet you in that house, but I met you while I was living in that house. All right? You were in one of the rooms downstairs. I was like, who are you? I'm Elizabeth. Hi.
Hi,
You're
I come
cute.
with the house. I live in the basement. No, and then you kept it, you held on to it, then you leased it out to one of the coaches.
Yeah. It's a great house. It was a great house. It was right over off the city line.
What's side?
Yeah, I loved it. I wish I could have still held on to it, but then we had a pipe on the top floor break while the coach was on vacation, and then the whole house just turned into like a rainforest.
I know.
And it had to get gutted, and
That was tragic because you
I
did a
felt
lot
like
of work to it.
Yeah, I just felt like that was the perfect time to sell it because it had just got like gutted and redone and painted everything gray and put it on the market just
I
to not
know.
deal with it anymore. The old
I know, it was
stone.
like a prohibition era, right? Like
Yeah, it was like
the 20s.
yeah, it
or
was
something.
one of the houses
Was
that
it
was like
historic?
built with Valley Forge stone and stuff. It was a cool house. It was a cool neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But I was ready to live downtown. We're going downtown.
Looking back, what would have made the transition easier?
So, which transition are we speaking of?
I don't know, any of them.
Well, I mean, I think guidance from a local would have been huge on either, you know. I understand it's tough for a team to like dedicate resource solely for that, but you know, there should be, you know, relationships with organizations around the city with people that they can just kind of hand you off to for that type of. You can only find so much stuff online. You can only, you know, look at so many rental brochures.
They don't have brochures
You know,
anymore.
you can like you don't even know the questions to ask.
Right.
Like when we went to Indy, like we didn't really even know
I
the
didn't know
questions
what I
to
was
ask the
asking.
guy. Like, is there good food around there?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the
Fast
this is
food
the
hub
chain-
of America.
This is the chain restaurant capital of the world. Oh,
Oh,
perfect. There's a Steak and Shake right down the street.
perfect. And a Checkers. Oh my god.
But like just having a local that has like some know-how to be able to ask questions, and then like I was saying, even if you don't know what questions to ask, like they'll know
they can anticipate your
tidbits.
unique needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
especially somebody like
who's been
through
there, done that.
it. Yeah.
What do you remember about that first season away from Philly?
I remember feeling like I was missing out on something like here. Because I knew that, you know, like, it's kind of like if you and all your friends have a dinner planned, right? And then for something happens at the last minute, you can't make it, but they're all going still. Like, you get a certain level of FOMO. I mean, some people do. Some people don't. Some people just don't really care. But I guess that's the best way I could describe it. It's like all my friends were still here. You know, they were building something.
It was the only thing you knew.
Yeah, it was what I was used to. So like, I was still trying to like do my own thing, and Indy was fun. The guys on the team were great. You know, I made some awesome friends, but I still felt like I was missing out on like a certain amount of laughs and jokes in the locker room and just those kind of things. That's probably.
Did it ever feel like home in Indianapolis? Like, did you ever feel like settled?
No.
I know.
No. But I don't know if I planned to feel settled because the way we set it up, you know, like
And the ironic thing is you were 4 hours away from where you grew up.
I know. Well,
4 hours.
yeah.
What was the hardest part of moving mid-career, newly married, and with a baby on the way? Well, we didn't technically move with a baby on the way. We moved back home with a baby on the way. How did that shift your perspective on what players and families really need off the field?
You know, to be honest,
Mid-career.
so moving mid-career was tough because, you know, you're just going to the unknown. The only thing I knew was Philly and the Philly staff and the organization, the front office, all that stuff.
And you came here as a very young adult. You were 22 years old.
Right.
So it's almost like, you know, people in the organization became family members.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's home away from home.
Yeah. I mean, I did a lot of maturing in Philadelphia, you know. I guess, like, I feel like I became an adult while I was in Philly. Definitely had to take some lumps and learn some
Growing
lessons.
pains.
Absolutely. And Coach Reed was, like, super patient with me and understanding. I really appreciate that, you know. Juan obviously took, like, we have a close relationship. I still talk to him. You know, it's a Division II brotherhood. But I feel like I owe a lot of my career to him just because he became, like, just really close, you know, like, he was fighting for me because I was, like, a Division II guy, like, his path kind of thing, you know. So, like, he was fighting for me and he would do anything he could to help me make it. So put in a lot of extra hours with him. So yeah, moving to Indy was tough, but, like, moving with you, newly married, it was just exciting. I was, you know, I didn't necessarily, like I said, I didn't know about a lot of the issues and problems, and not necessarily issues and problems, but just hurdles that you had to get over or deal with while we were there until we moved back, you know, till we piled it all up and came back. Yeah. But we kind of got out of there in a hurry. I got cut. So home by Christmas.
It's okay. I really missed my family. I was pregnant with my first baby. I needed my mommy, you know.
And Hades was avoiding you.
And our second dog thought I killed the first dog. So
You wouldn't go near her.
he wouldn't go near me. Like, it was a really weird time. That was so sad.
He was like, oh shit, there she is.
He was like, oh my
Last
God.
time Zeus got in that car, he didn't come
He
back.
didn't come back. That's so sad. I recently had Allison Stoutland on,
I know, I saw.
and we reminisced about the good old days, and that was nice. And Coach Stout, seeing him the last time we saw him, he had some really nice things to say about you, which was really always nice to hear.
Stout's the man.
He's awesome.
He's not only is he just an awesome coach, but he's just a great human, and I think that's what makes him a good coach. Because like the guys that he coaches, he really like cares about. You know how I was talking about Juan, how he like he had that relationship with me because we're both Division II guys, where he really cared about me and what happened with me and the success that I had. Stout somehow finds the ability to do that with everybody, with all of his guys. Every single guy that comes into his room, he creates this relationship and level of care for his guys, and he just wants to see them all succeed, which is, it's golden. A lot of coaches you get, they don't give a shit if you're not going to succeed for them, and then just get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
He's a special dude.
Special family.
Still trying to get him on the golf course. Run out of time.
What problems do you think birds nesting solves that agents or teams usually overlook?
Well, I think all the little problems that you guys solve is what gets overlooked. I don't know if everybody is, you know, as stoic with their hurdles as you were, you know? I mean, if everything's smooth at the home life, then everything should be you want to get the optimal production out of your players when you're bringing them onto your team, right? And if they're worried about something that's not right at home, or their wife's not comfortable in this area, or girlfriend, doesn't have any friends to hang out with, or doesn't know where to get her hair done or her nails done or something like that, then it's gonna carry over. It's gonna be tough for him. He's, even if she's not complaining to him, he's gonna notice that she's like not happy, And so those things, I think, are very easy to overlook from the organization, because they just see you for the day, and they're not going to sit there and be like, hey, what's on your mind? You seem like you're thinking about something else. And you're like, yeah, my girlfriend can't find a place to get her nails done.
Like, she doesn't know where to do Pilates.
Have you ever showed her Google? The extra level of care, and you've been on the other side where you're not a player, but you were a player's girlfriend and a player's wife, so how that side feels versus the guy that's just in, and I think that as long as you guys continue to smooth everything out on the home front for the players, then they get to focus on playing and performing and helping the organization win Super Bowls or championships or what have you. It goes the same for coaches. I mean, coaches that shift around, I think coaches could probably shake it off a little easier, because their wife just knows. Usually the wives just know. Like,
God bless
they're not going to see
wives.
them. They're not going to see them. When they do see them, they better be smiling, and happy. It's a good idea. I think that it can only benefit any sports franchise.
One thing rookies should prioritize when relocating that they usually don't think about.
To be honest, and I know this is going to seem like a shameless plug, but finding someone to take care of the small stuff. Like, my mom did that for me, but she's not from Philadelphia. And she did a great job for what I could handle at that point. But I really think, like, if you're going to be in the NFL, you can afford to find somebody to handle the small decisions, so you can do 100% focus on the field and learning the playbook, because that's what you're here for. That would be my advice. Hire bird's nesting.
Thanks, honey.
Whether you're a first-round pick or a long shot who just got the call, getting drafted means more than changing teams. It means moving your life, your people, and your peace of mind.
And if you've got someone in your corner who's been through it, it makes the whole thing a lot smoother.
That's what bird's nesting is all about. If you're ready to make a move and to make it smooth, reach out.
To this year's draft class, congratulations. Welcome to the league.
Let's get you settled in.